Hello everyone, and welcome to the Tome of Silver, the show where I randomly select a game from my collection, review it, and add it to an ever-growing ranking list. Those who watched my Deathmark video may recall I mentioned how I regularly looked for games to pick up for my Playstation Vita. I love the Vita, but there was never a whole lot of big-ticket items that I wanted to buy. Still, I wanted to build up my collection, leading to me often browsing Vita games on Amazon, and looking up reviews and information on any game with a cover I found interesting. One of these games was Code Realize, Guardian of Rebirth. Code Realize is an Otome visual novel, originally released for the PlayStation Vita and subsequently ported to the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch sometime later. For those unaware of the Otome genre, they are typically story-focused games that are primarily targeted at women, as this genre usually involves playing as a female protagonist, with one of the primary goals, if not the primary goal, to develop a romance with one of the secondary male protagonists. Now, I'm an asexual male, and I haven't been much into romance, so I'm clearly not the main demographic Code Realize is aimed at. Yet during my research on the game, I nevertheless found myself interested in the game's steampunk world and gorgeous artwork, and ultimately decided to give it a chance. And honestly, I had a great time. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Put on your finest top hat, start feeling romantical, and let's turn the page to Code Realize, Guardian of Rebirth for the PlayStation Vita. Code Realize takes place in an alternate steampunk version of London, England. We play as a young girl named Cardia Beckford, whom the player may rename if they so choose. Cardia has spent the last 2 years alone in an abandoned mansion on the outskirts of London, having been told by her father that she mustn't leave. The locals refer to Cardia as a monster, as her body carries a deadly poison, causing her to melt whatever she touches. However, one day, the Queen's Guard infiltrates the mansion in hopes of capturing Cardia for an unknown reason, only for her to be saved by the dashing gentleman thief Arsène Lupin. Lupin and his companion, the carefree engineer Impey Barbicane, bring her back to their base in London. Both are searching for Cardia's father, Isaac Beckford, and request Cardia's help in finding him. Along the way, Cardia will meet the intellectual but timid Victor Frankenstein, the graceful and composed Count Saint Germain, and the abrasive vampire hunter, Abraham Van Helsing, each having their own reason for wishing to find Isaac Beckford. A playthrough of Code Realize comprises of 13 chapters. The first 8 chapters are known as the Common Route, where we are introduced to and get to spend time with the cast and set up their individual character arcs. The Common Route has an excellent pace, having a seamless balance of exciting conflicts, intriguing setups for future story beats, and easygoing slice-of-life segments that allows you to better connect with the cast. Depending on the choices you make during the Common Route, chapters 9 through 13 will focus on one of the 5 male protagonists, though the 5th route, Arsène Lupin, can only be played after finishing the other 4 character stories. As you may have noticed as I named off the game's male leads, the cast of Code Realize consists of a mashup of recognizable characters from various literary works, including the likes of Sherlock Holmes, no that's not a typo, he's a real character, look it up, and Dracula. The combination of all these unique characters within its steampunk world makes for a wonderfully unique setting, which I was endlessly infatuated with. And it's clear just how much effort was put into realizing this setting, pun not intended, as the game includes a full glossary of important terms that arise throughout the story, allowing the player to read additional bits of lore that catch their interest. Naturally, both the characters and world are greatly elevated by the game's incredible artwork. Everything from the character portraits to full CG images was simply breathtaking, a feast for the eyes from beginning to end, which may be worth the price of admission alone depending on your taste in art style. A visual novel with poor visuals is dead on arrival, but thankfully Code Realize doesn't just stick the landing, but it did a flip on the way down. Even the menus look great, maintaining the setting's steampunk aesthetic, letting it integrate seamlessly with the rest of the art. There are even these little details, like the main menu changing depending on the time of day you play, and the little chibi character art in the extras menu is just delightful. Now, obviously, the story is the reason to play Code Realize, so I won't be going in depth with the individual routes. Doing so would take up too much time anyways. However, after playing through all 5 routes, the story of Code Realize is excellent. The protagonist, Cardia, is a fully realized character with a well-defined personality, a rarity in these types of games. This may be disappointing to some who are hoping for more of a blank slate to allow the player to self-insert themselves into the story. Personally though, I prefer how Code Realize chose to handle her. Giving her a personality allows her to engage more with the plot, which makes for a more engaging story and allows her to have more agency. A lack of agency in a protagonist can be one of the most frustrating traits for me in a story, so I'm glad to see they managed to sidestep this issue. Another common issue with dating sims that Code Realize impressively swerves is that oftentimes the male characters in these games feel like they just exist to fall in love with the main protagonist, a handsome slab of meat whose purpose is to be romanced. Here, each romantic option has their own goals and motivation outside of Cordia, which allows them to be better fleshed out and makes achieving their true ending feel more natural and rewarding. Even when you start a character's specific route, the others still play an active role. It's not as if they say, she didn't pick us lads, pack it in, because real people wouldn't do that. Honestly, the only route I didn't care for was Impy's. I felt he developed the least out of the cast, and Nemo, his primary antagonist, was incredibly obnoxious. I do want to make it clear, I didn't like Impy's route, but I am in no way saying it was bad. That's the beauty of these kinds of games. A story that may not have been my cup of tea could be right up another's alley. I think my personal favorite of the Bachelors was Saint Germain. It has a dark twist early on that really got me hooked, and carried that momentum straight through. Plus, Saint Germain does that trope where he always keeps his eyes closed, but opens them when he gets serious, and I don't know, I'm kinda into it. My one real gripe, if any, was the decision to lock off Lupin's route until you clear the other 4. And I didn't like the decision to clearly define that this was the true route which gives the most definitive conclusion to Cordia's story. I really like Lupin. He's cool, charming, and always entertaining to see in action.
So you see, that's where the trouble began. That smile. That damn smile.
But a route being considered the correct route in these kinds of games leaves a bad taste in my mouth, as it feels like it only serves to make someone's preference to another character seem invalid. Plus, playing all 5 routes is a considerable time investment, looking at around 30 hours depending on how quickly you read, and not everyone will want to play through each story. But if that player resonated with Lupin the most on their first go, they're unfortunately barred from experiencing his story. I understand why they did this, as Lupin's true route also tries to wrap up the other secondary characters' arcs alongside Lupin's, so playing Lupin's first would spoil the other stories. But I kinda just wish they didn't feel the need to do that, as obviously trying to wrap up every character's story in those 5 chapters is just less satisfying than their actual routes and feels a bit messy. Nevertheless, I feel confident when I say that the story of Code Realize is so interesting that I can recommend it to other people for more than just getting to romance a bunch of pretty boys, though that is an integral part of the experience. As I said earlier, I'm not really into romance, yet I was gripped throughout and fully invested in the individual love stories, all well translated to near perfection. Emphasis on near perfection. Code Realize is also fully voice acted, with the exception of Cordia, who was not voice acted in the original Vita release. Unfortunately, the voice acting is strictly Japanese. I did find the default voices a little quiet compared to the music. Thankfully, this can be adjusted in the settings, and what a plethora of settings this game has. One thing that Code Realize makes very clear is it wants to ensure that you have the option to customize the best reading experience you can. These options include adjusting the volume, removing voice acting, and even allowing you to turn off specific characters' voices if there's one character you just can't stand listening to. I'm looking at you, Nemo. You can adjust text speed, enable autoplay, enable skipping dialogue you've already read while stopping on new dialogue for repeat playthroughs, the works. Perhaps Code Realize's most appreciated feature is its Path of Genesis option in the main menu, unlocked after completing any character's route once. What this allows you to do is select any chapter from 1 to 8 to start from, and select which of the male character's route you next wish to play through. This allows you to skip up to the final chapter of the common route, and ensure you're locked into whichever story you next wish to play, without fear of selecting the wrong choice beforehand. This is an excellent feature that saves you from needing to replay the common route 4 additional times just to see the full story. The consequence of this is there are a few moments during the common route where you can choose to hang out with specific characters for some extra scenes, which sadly you will miss if you jump straight to chapter 8. But as someone who did play through the common route twice while recording footage, even skipping through all the previously read dialogue took several hours to get through, and I didn't feel those handful of bonus scenes were worth the time investment. Plus, playing through the common route every time would be a nightmare for anyone wanting to play each route consecutively, and would kill most people's interest after 1 or 2 playthroughs. Having this available is quality of life at its finest, and just makes me feel the game gives a damn about my time. There are a good variety of extras to enjoy as well. You're free to view any of the previously seen artwork, listen to the game's lovely soundtrack, and once you complete a character's route, you'll unlock an extra scenario for that character. These are mainly just fan service scenes meant for fun, with the boys looking all hot and being shirtless. So if you're looking for some spice, but not too much spice, after finishing the game, maybe these will whet your appetite. Code Realize is a brilliant otome, with a near perfect balance of compelling romance and gripping storytelling. The world and characters are fantastic, and everything is brought together with some truly stellar art. If you're looking for an excellent romance visual novel to immerse yourself in, look no further. Code Realize Guardian of Rebirth will claim the number 17 spot in our ranking. Aside from my issue with Lupin's route, it's hard to find anything wrong with Code Realize. The only reason it doesn't rank higher is just that it's not really a game you play, and the story isn't one I adore repeating like Deathmark, so I'm less compelled to revisit it. Still, for that initial experience, Code Realize is great. And that's all for today's video. I know a game like this may have come as a bit of a surprise compared to the games I've reviewed previously, but what can I say, I'd like to dip my toes in a wide range of games just to experience them. We're heading into December now, which means it's time to get ourselves excited for the winter and the holidays. While our next game isn't a Christmas game, it does feature plenty of snow and ice, but it won't be the cold that makes you shiver. In the meanwhile, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and may we see each other again when we turn to the next chapter in the Tome of Silver.